But it's kind of specific questions around face coverings, because I've been contacted by a number of constituents who are incredibly worried about the proposal to remove the exemption from wearing a face covering for those for whom it causes severe stress. And one of my constituents is a lady who, as a teenager, was a victim in a robbery by a masked man, and years later suffered horrific domestic abuse. And she's really unable to bring herself to wear a face covering because of the trauma that these incidents have caused. In fact, trauma is actually caused even in her place of work when she's approached by particularly men wearing face coverings, and that gives her desperate stress. So I wanted to ask, Minister, if you are going to review the decision to remove the severe stress exemption. And I wanted to also ask whether there was an equality impact assessment carried out prior to the decision to place the onus on an individual for proving an exemption for face coverings. And finally, and I'm sorry that I'm asking so many questions, but I have to take the opportunity. But in the scenario that an individual who has an exemption, but without evidence on them at the time of being fined for not wearing a face covering, what steps will they need to take to appeal that fine? And obviously I'm aware that the decision has now been taken to postpone enforcement from tomorrow. But given that this is still on the books, as it were, and may well come in the near future, would appreciate updates on all of those issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. I'll pick up on a couple of those before handing over to Michael and Ian in regards to Omicron. In regards to face coverings, when the proposal came from the Executive COVID Task Force in regards to the changes that were to be made about the enforcement of face coverings, we have a department have engaged, Health and Social Care Board and PHA have engaged with what can be done and what should be done in regards to those. So that work still continues. It's been led by the Executive COVID Task Force. It's not wasn't actually one of our proposals. That came from an ACT paper towards the end of December about the enforcement regulations as well. So we are contributing to the ongoing conversation that's been had at the executive. It was raised today again, just in regards to how people can actually prove that exception and what it actually means in the appeal mechanism that may be forward. So that's why it has been postponed again in regards to that enforcement of it. It will stress that the wearing of face coverings is still covered in certain areas by regulations, but it's the ability or the exemption certification that has been the one that is causing distress as well. And we've also, I did ask the Executive COVID Task Force as well to put out communication today as well as in regards to people seeking that exemption certification from their GPs. That's not currently in place and not something that we have established because we're aware now that GPs are being asked to provide that certification, but it's also leading to their staff receiving abuse as well, because it's not something that we currently have in place or envisage. So that work's ongoing at an executive level, as I say, led by the Executive COVID Task.
Minister, didn't really answer all those questions, but I can follow those up in writing. But I suppose if you're saying that it hasn't come from health as such, per se, it's come from elsewhere, then I do understand that. But there is great concern out there about how any enforcement will take place, and I think that it's causing more stress to many people, the thought that they may be challenged and fined on that particular issue.
Okay, thank you.